This is the Nuevo Stesso interview, scene one, take one. So, when I think back to my earliest days of being a kid, just being on the streets, skateboarding, wanting to play with paints like graffiti and building skateboard ramps and riding BMXs, there was always this energy or this passion for architecture and kind of creating things in an artistic way. So I realized early on that I have something that could potentially be for the rest of my life. I always reference this story because I think it plays a big part in my career, and that's this time where I was in middle school, and I was speaking to one of my friends, and I said to him, I was like, I'm going to be a fashion designer one day, not knowing what that looks like or where I would be or how that would work, but it's just something's inside of you, and I think I listened to my heart more than I listened to anything, and as time went on, I remember the first time I touched a piece of clothing in a more intentional way was in the basement of one of my friend's house. But it was more about the moment where I had this idea and this intention to create something. And then moments leading to that, it was the fulfillment of creating something and curating it and watching it come to life is where realized that passion came into play. So now getting into high school, you're not really sure where you're going to go yet in life, but you have somewhat of an idea of who you want to be and you want to do something, right? In my books, I like to believe that everybody wants to be something big in some sense, and that doesn't mean fame and riches all the time, but it more so means being someone with some type of power, and not a power where you're a ruler, but more so having a power over your life and having control over your life. So to go into detail with what really made me want to decide that I was going to do clothing was I made a pair of jeans in high school and I sold them for $100. From that point, it was like, whoa, I made $100 off a pair of jeans. I could probably do this for a living. So now getting out of high school, it comes this time where you need to make a decision. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, what's the plan now? Like, who am I? What do I want to be? And God spoke to me. He said, you have two options. He's like, you're either gonna be a musician or a fashion designer. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I said, the next decision I make and the next words that I say are gonna be life changing. It's gonna be something that I stick to for the rest of my life. Pure dedication, pure loyalty to what I'm doing. So I sat there for 2 minutes. I thought to myself, I'm gonna be a fashion designer. And that's when I knew that I had to open my books and get started on whatever it is that I had to do in order to become the person that I am today. But for me, I knew my mission was bigger. I knew my game plan was bigger. I knew that I had to take my time. I had to learn the ropes. I had to build my skills. I don't come from um, a post-secondary background. I never went to school for fashion. I'm fully self-taught by my grandmother, my mother, and really just social media, YouTube, Google, all these platforms, really utilizing what's in my face. And I went through a really hard time back in 2019. To say the least, it was very rough. I was at the lowest of lows. Yet that year changed my life, and I'm so grateful to be alive for today. And that's when I came up with the idea. I thought to myself, I want a new self. I remember telling myself that. I was laying in bed. I said, I want a new self. I was like, new self. I was like, this resonates, right? And not only did it resonate with me, but I could think about thousands or millions of other people that could probably resonate with this as well, because I believe that we're all striving for something new, and especially within ourselves. New self came into play, and I was like, it needs to be more personal. I was like, my brand needs to represent me because it is me. I was creating something that is bigger than me. So I said to myself, what would new self be in Spanish and Italian combined? Nuevo is new in Spanish, self in Italian, which was stesso, Nuevo Stesso. So the actual translation for that is se stesso, but I translated it down to stesso just to make everything rhyme and come together. My mindset for this is creating something with intention for the consumer to understand what they're wearing, when they're wearing it. Learn about it, dive into it, become more involved. I want people to be a part of this community. And that's why I create clothes, is because the clothing is something that's tangible. The clothing is a ticket into the Nuevo Stesso community to be a part of something bigger. Not in a way where it's more for me, but in a way where it's for you. And I think that's very important to harness and understand. You know, I wake up every day with the idea of becoming my new self, to become more vulnerable and understanding that I am not 100% yet my new self, but it's understanding that it's a work in progress. It's not something that just happens. So I hope my influence helps people and shows people that it's okay to be where you're at, but as long as you're working towards something, that's what I would like to impact. I would like to impact the world in a positive way, in a way where people don't feel like they have to hide who they truly are because of worldly influence. And this is the influence right now. You know, this is me breaking a boundary that normally people wouldn't say in front of the camera. Be your authentic self. Don't be afraid to express yourself in the best way possible and let that be a positive manner. I always relate to me being a kid. You know, I think about times like these where, you know, I'm sitting in my own store and, you know, I have a team behind me now, and it's something that you would imagine, but at the same time, being a kid, you can't comprehend what that actually looks like. You're only just putting visions and thoughts into your mind. But it's well. Nuevo Stesso is well.